So what's happened at this point is Lorraine, Dennis, and Sherry build the company as far as they can build it with their expertise, which is not like these venture capitalists' expertise. They build it to the level of their expertise and money that they have to do it. Then they bring on another partner like Tengram, and Tengram takes them to the next level. And, and they little by little start building up from there. Then 10gram sells it to Eris, like I said, in, what did I say? May of 2017. They got $23 billion in assets just in the private equity fund to do these kinds of deals. So they got plenty of money. They start announcing that they're going to start expanding worldwide. That's their goal and whatever. You hear everybody start talking. Oh, great. This is going to be a long-term thing. I'm like, no, it ain't. I'm like, this is 5 years or less, probably more like 4. That was my estimation. So they start expanding, producing more product. They're going into different countries, and you start hearing little bits of rumbling of packaging changes and stuff showing up at shows that it wasn't, and and whatever. Now remember, up to the time of this first deal that they made with 10gram partners, DevaCurl products were sold as it was a professional line, only sold at salons. So people would have to go to a curly hair salon, that had a curl specialist to get the product. And the idea is that, you'd get your hair done, cut, styled by a curl specialist, and you would be taught how to use the products. Well, once these venture capitalist firms get involved, and these management companies get involved, they want to get it into mass retail. Here's where I see the big problems start. All of a sudden, you can buy them at retailers or online or whatever, and you don't have to go through a salon. So you're not being taught how to use them. This is where it starts to go south, in my opinion, is at that point. All of a sudden, the trainings of use of product is gone. And if you're a DevaCurl user or a stylist, you know that DevaCurl products they're completely different than buying a product, any shampoo off the shelf at Target, for example, and shampooing your hair and whatever, and everything's wonderful. It's completely different, right? That's where it starts to go south. So that's May of 2017. They start doing that, and it gets, and it continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you see these, you start seeing these issues. Now, here's where I've got to take a little bit of a step back to tell you a little bit more about this. And it's going to tail off into the ingredient discussion that I had in the previous video that I did, where I explained to you how ingredients are and how this could be a ingredient issue. So another issue that these management companies need to do is they need to lower the price of the product. They need to get it done as cheap as they possibly can so they can increase profitability. So how do you do that? There's plenty of ways to do that. Like I said, I talked about it in the other video. I'll post a link for it so you can see. I'm going to post a lot of links in the description here for you guys to go and look at stuff. But it's very, very common. And I'm going to tell you a story that happened to Melanie and I. One of these big product manufacturers, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but a big hair product and health and beauty product manufacturer here in the United States, a number of years ago, about the time that this was happening, these companies knew that this natural curly hair thing was going to take off. And we actually got contacted by one that said, hey, we want to buy a percentage of your company and partner with you, and we'll manufacture all the products, and you guys just do your thing and grow. And I knew what was going to happen, and I thought, well, let's have these discussions, because maybe it's a little bit early for us, but let's have these discussions. So Melanie and I ended up, they flew us out across the country. We went to one of their giant plants, and they flew us out a day early, and they had they had a guy meet us who was the executive assistant, and he, kind of picked us up and got us in our hotel and whatever, and made sure we had something to eat and blah, 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 blah. And we finally go into the meeting where we're going to meet the president of the company, the CEO, and a couple of PhD chemists and their marketers and whatever. And it's in this office with these, big leather furniture, and it's like in a circle. And Melanie and I go into this meeting. And as we're walking into the meeting, the executive assistant doesn't look at us, but he opens the door to let us in. And I can hear him mumble under his breath. He doesn't look at us, and he says, "Whatever you do, don't let them change your formulations." And I'm like, ugh, I knew it. I knew it because I'd already been in this business a long time from their standpoint. So sure enough, we go in there, we sit down, and they hand the NDAs around, right? So, nobody can talk about nothing. I mean, everything that goes on in this room stays in this room. I got copies of all the formulations for the raw curl stuff. I hand them out, and I watch everybody in the room, and I can see as these guys are all looking at them, I can see like their eyebrows going up. And I knew it because we were like in the curly hair space, in the organic kind of realm, natural realm. We were like the first ones that had really, really pure products, really high quality stuff. And I could see their eyes, and I'm like, at first I thought, they're impressed, right? Well, they were impressed, and it's really quiet for a long period of time. And Melanie and I are just sitting there. Long story short, all of a sudden, the president of the company, looking over his glasses, said, and he didn't address me, he addressed Melanie. He said, "Melanie," he said, "would you be okay if we changed some of these ingredients to make the products a little more affordable? And it really wouldn't change anything performance-wise, but there's some things in here that we think we could do a little bit better and make them more affordable." And I just slumped in my seat, and I'm like, I didn't even look at Melanie, and I'm like, oh, here we go. There's no way she's going to go for this. And Melanie thought for, probably about 15 seconds, and she said, "Well, we could look at it." And left it at that, and the meeting went on for maybe another 45 minutes, and and then we left, and we had dinner, and none of this ever came up in the dinner. They took us out for a real nice dinner. None of the meeting ever came up, and we left, and we got on the plane, and I said, "Melanie, this deal isn't going to happen. It's not, because I know what they're going to do. They're going to try to cheapen everything up. It's going to ruin your brand. Everybody's going to blame you and whatever." I'm like, it can't happen. We're just going to have to keep doing what we're doing. And we did, and the deal never happened. Now, I tell you that story because I wanted you to know how it happens, but there's another connection here. So I'm going to stop at that sale, the second sale of DevaCurl. Now, July of 2014 comes along, and When by Chaz Dean, everybody knows that. Everybody's seen the infomercials, right? A lawsuit gets filed, a class action lawsuit. Now, what I have to tell you about that's to back all this up, that's going to make this whole connection, is the entire When deal. Like, the reason Chaz Dean even, was able to create When and market it the way it is was because of one guy. One guy put that whole thing together, and it's a guy named Jonathan Flicker. How do I know that? Because I know Jonathan Flicker, because he's a friend of mine, and his parents actually are personal friends of Melanie and I, to the point of they come to our salon, and we have dinner with them a couple of times a year, if not more, either at their house or at a restaurant or whatever. I mean, we are friendly. So just to be clear, like, everybody that I've been mentioning to you that's related in this situation are all people where I could pull my cell phone out and say, here's their numbers, right? So I'm not just pulling this out of my rear end. So Jonathan Flicker's the guy that made the whole When thing come together. So he knows the thing inside and out. This point, 2014, July, when this lawsuit first gets filed, this class action suit with When, Jonathan's already been gone. He's already on some other deal. But I'm talking to him because Jonathan and I we're trying to make another business deal of something else related. So one day I'm on the phone with Jonathan, And as this Wen lawsuit is moving forward. And I said, Jonathan, I said, what do you think of this? I said, is Wen making women's hair fall out, right? Is it making it fall out? And he's like, no, it's not the products. I'm like, well, I'm looking at what I'm seeing coming out of that lawsuit and what's being filed. And I said, that's really what they're hammering on. And he said, and this is his quote, he said, Ken, it's not the products, it's the technique. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And then I asked Jonathan, I said, really the Wen system is really a sulfate-free deal. It reminds me a lot of DevaCurl. And he said, I know who DevaCurl is, but I really, really don't know, but it could be. And I took that conversation and I thought long and hard about that, and I'm like, this is really interesting. And I said, I came on twice onto 2 podcast video shows, and I came out and I said, mark my words, I said, if Wen lose, no, it's not how I said it. I said, if Wen loses this class action lawsuit, DevaCurl is next. Mark my words. Because I went and I looked and I saw DevaCurl, it's Wen. It's the same thing. They're never cleansing. They're using a conditioner basically to wash hair. Now, let me read you a couple of quotes that I found. Now here, follow this. This is in regards to the Wen lawsuit, which was $26.25 million. Now, there's something about that. The records that I saw on this originally said there were 6 million customers that were involved in the Wen class action lawsuit for hair loss. Supposedly, the majority of customers were to get $20,000 each, a $20,000 pay. The math doesn't work though. So I don't quite know. I've also never actually met someone that, of these 6 million people, that actually got anything monetarily in this Wen class action suit. Never met anybody. I'd like to, because I'd really like to know what happened and what they got. But let me read you a quote that came out of this. And Jonathan and I never talked about this that I remember after this conversation. But he actually made another quote to me. I can't say it exactly, but it was, he said something to me like given the facts, he's like, no way do the claimants win this lawsuit. He's like, no way do the plaintiffs win. But I got a couple quotes that are interesting. Here's a quote. It's true lawsuits have been filed over hair loss supposedly caused by Wen brand hair care products, but no substantive evidence has yet been produced demonstrating that the Wen line of hair products is any more damaging than any other similar products. Moreover, the manner in which Wen hair care purportedly caused the damage in question has not been explained. That's really interesting, because if we're right here, which I believe we are, that Wen is the same as DevaCurl. I mean, they're basically the same. Now I got a quote from an attorney. Attorney Amy Davis explained this. The plaintiff's complaints when the initial suit was filed last year, from what we understand about the product and how it causes hair loss, is it contains virtually no cleanser. It's like using lotion to wash your hair. So instead of removing the product when you rinse it off, it just becomes impacted in your hair follicle. Okay, so that right there, that backs up Jonathan's claim that it's not the product at all, it's it was the technique. Now, I'm not saying in the DevaCurl situation that it's not the product, because I don't know that's been determined or not, but we've discussed this quite a bit in the Curly Hair Q&A Show podcast, that co-washing is is not, it's not a great thing. And I know I've been kicked out of I brought this up on the big Facebook groups that are the co-washing people. I brought this up and I get attacked like crazy. I mean, they are really, they're locked into that. And let's be clear here. You know, DevaCurl is co-washing.